If you end up liking this video and finding it helpful, then give it a thumbs up and leave your comments below about what your experiences are of using this video. And also, if you haven't already, click the subscribe button and the bell button near the subscribe button so that you can be kept informed when future videos like this go live. Close your eyes as I tell you a story about a boy who ran off to the circus. And with your eyes closed, you can listen to me reading this story. And while I read this story, you can begin to feel relaxed. And as I read, you can imagine this story and begin to drift off to sleep. As you drift off asleep, you can continue this story in a dream. And my reading will help you feel sleepy. It will help you feel tired, and it will help you fall asleep. James was a little boy with a cheeky streak. One night, when his parents went to bed, James crept out of bed and sneaked out of the house. James knew this was a naughty thing to do, but he had heard that the circus was in town. James loved the circus and wanted to join in. He had always dreamt of becoming a circus performer. To get out of the house, James had to creep from his room and down the stairs in the dark. He didn't want to disturb anyone, so he couldn't turn the lights on. James had remembered how many steps there were to get downstairs. He remembered that there were 10 steps. 3 steps leading down to a landing, and then he had to turn to the left before walking down the final 7 steps. James walked slowly and carefully to the top of the stairs. There was a faint glow into the upstairs landing from a street light outside, so he could just about see where he was going. Once James made it to the stairs, he held onto the banister and began to walk down the stairs slowly. He counted deliberately as he went. 10, 9, James counted as he took small, slow steps. 8, James knew he was now on the landing and had to turn to the left to continue down the stairs. 7, 6, 5. James counted slowly and quietly. 4, 3, 2, 1, he whispered to himself. James had safely made it to the bottom of the stairs. He was now stood at the front door. James opened the door and walked nervously out into the street. He was scared and excited, all at the same time. He had seen a map and so knew the way to the circus. They were only set to be in town for a few days, so if he was going to join them, he would have to do it now, for he didn't know when they might come back. As James walked along the dark streets, trying to keep under the streetlights, he thought about his parents. He thought about whether they would be upset when they found that he wasn't home. Still, he hoped that they would be happy for him, because he really wanted to join the circus. James had left a letter for his parents so that they would know where he was and what he was doing. He didn't want them to worry. After what seemed like a long walk, James could see the top of the circus tent at the end of the road. He smiled and began to walk faster towards the tent. James was only 10, but he hoped the circus would let him work for them and would teach him how to become a performer. When James arrived at the circus, he found that it was all locked up and everyone was asleep. This wasn't a surprise to James. After all, it was only 4 a.m. But he had hoped that someone would be awake to let him in. Because everyone was asleep, James had to wait outside the circus until the performers woke up. James thought the circus opened at 9 a.m, so the circus performers must have to be up by 7 a.m. at least, in order to get ready to work and set everything up. James sat down, feeling cold and tired, by the entrance to the circus. He waited. While he waited, he found himself drifting off to sleep from time to time. It seemed like ages until the sun started to rise in the sky. And at that point he could see circus people coming out of their caravans, starting to set up the circus. Whenever any of the circus people came near the gate, James called to them, trying to get their attention. He wanted to let them know that he was going to join the circus, but none of them let him in. They didn't even come over to talk to him. At 9 a.m, someone came over to the gate and opened it. James tried saying that he wanted to join the circus and asked if he could come in. "No, lad. If you want to come in, you have to pay like everyone else," said one of the circus staff. James explained that he didn't want to come in as a customer. He wanted to come in to join them and be a performer. He explained that he had left home to join the circus. He told them how good he was on the trampoline. Back at home, meanwhile, James' parents woke up. And when James didn't come down for breakfast, despite them calling him and making him his favourite, egg in an egg cup with dippy soldiers, they went upstairs to his room to check he was okay. When they saw James was missing, they panicked and got upset. They saw the letter and quickly got dressed to head to the circus to find him. Back at the circus, James was still trying to convince them to let him in. Then one of the staff thought maybe he would be safer with them while they called his parents to come and pick him up. "Come in, lad," said one of the circus staff. "What's your name?" "James." "Well, James, why don't you come in for a moment while we call your parents?" James went with the circus staff. They walked him to the big tent. James thought this was so exciting. He was finally in the big tent. Maybe they would let him join. James told the circus staff they didn't need to call his parents because he had left them a note to say he had gone to join the circus. They explained to James that his parents would certainly be worried about him, even if he had left them a note. So because of this, they needed to call his parents. James gave them his parents' telephone number. But by the time they were being called, James' mum and dad had already arrived at the circus looking for their son. While the circus staff went to fetch James' parents, one of the performers stayed with James and said he would teach him some of the circus performers' techniques. James was excited by this. He was helped onto a wire to walk across. This wasn't as easy as he thought it would be. He kept falling off. Luckily, the wire was only a metre or so off the ground, and there were safety mats, so James didn't get hurt. After talking with the circus staff, James' parents came running into the big tent. They ran up to James, grabbing him and giving him a big hug. They told James how much he had scared them and how dangerous it was to run away like that. James apologized and said he didn't think it would have upset them because he'd left them a note. But he explained now that he was here and had been trying to do some of the circus tricks, he didn't think he was ready to join the circus after all. One of the circus performers came over to James and said that he could attend a circus skills course to learn some of the tricks and stunts that circus performers do. James was excited by this. Joining the circus isn't for someone as young as you, the performer said, but if you come back when you're grown up and you've learnt the skills and still want to join, then we may let you. James smiled and thanked the performer before leaving the tent and heading home with his parents to have his breakfast.